This
Okay,
conference will now be recorded.
so go ahead, Kay.
All right, welcome everybody. My name is Kay McKee, and I lived in Cloyne and Davis House while a student at UC Berkeley. I'm a member of the BSc Alumni Association board, and as a student, I'm not sure I was even really aware of the board, but it's a great organization. I love being a part of it, and we're excited to be here to talk about financial literacy tonight. My day job, I'm a commodities trader, so a lot of this stuff is of personal interest and professional interest as well. Always happy to talk about financial literacy and things of that nature. So yeah, welcome. Excited to have everybody. With us here today, we've got Linda Meza from the Cooperative Center Federal Credit Union. And again, as a student, I'm not sure that I was even aware of what they had to offer, but it's an amazing organization. They are aligned with the BSc in a lot of ways in terms of being a cooperative institution, just like the BSc. And Linda's here to share a little bit more about their organization. So really excited to be partnering with them on this. And then final point, title of the workshop, How to Survive Late Stage Capitalism. Hopefully we'll walk away knowing a little bit more about it. And just a plug for the BSCAA. We've got a few other great events on the horizon. Before we get into this one, we've got a creek cleanup, which is really cool. Co-op graduation, also super fun event. So check out our website for information on both of those. And if you like this one, we've got plenty more. So please stay in touch and stay in touch as a member of the Alumni Association as well. It's a really great group. So with that short intro, I'll kick it back over to Linda, who can get us into the presentation.
Fantastic, thank you, Kay. So a little bit about us as an institution. Kay mentioned that we are aligned in many ways with the, your name is just as long as our name is, the Berkeley Student Co-op Alumni Association. So the vision statement that is displayed before you was recently adopted by our board of directors. After coming out of 2 years of COVID and going through the strategic planning process, it was very important to our board to really put ourselves out there and describe what it is and who we are in very marked terms. So Cooperative Center FCU is a financially sustainable, community-rooted financial institution that enhances the financial well-being of our members through accessible, affordable, and unbiased products and services. The credit union contributes to the financial empowerment of those in low to moderate income brackets, people of color, historically underserved populations, and individuals of modest means who may be credit challenged. We build long-lasting member relationships by educating our members on the value and benefits of using the credit union as their primary financial institution. We actively demonstrate respect, empathy, and carry out our business interactions with the highest levels of integrity, ethics, and honesty. Cooperative Center provides consumer lending, including overall credit building products and financial empowerment to individuals, business owners, or aspiring business owners to improve their credit financial literacy, and preparedness to pursue business financing. Further, we support these members by acting as a bridge to business financial resources, such as other community development financial institutions, government economic development offices, and business incubators. So all that to say, after 80 years of being in business, we really care about the communities that we serve, and our emphasis as a community development financial institution as well as a minority depository institution, is to help those who have been disenfranchised and are unbanked, and again, disenfranchised from the financial services. Cooperative Center, again, celebrates 80 years of people helping people, and we do so on 4/20, kind of ironic. A visit to your Bancroft Library will help illustrate some of the impacts we've had in the community, from the hiring of Maudel Sharek, Matt Crawford, Zach Brown. You'll discover our passion for working with those corners of the community others overlook. Whether we're hiring those recently released from internment camps, people of color, combating the practice of redlining by opening a savings and loan company in order to make mortgages to people shut out from the financial system. Thank you again for the opportunity to share with you all. I came to Cooperative Center a little later in life in search of an opportunity to make a meaningful contribution, and this really checks all the boxes for me. So why look at retirement planning now for those who are, just out of high school and into college a couple of years? The thought of retirement probably is just not even on your horizon. And as this slide demonstrates, there's a reason for it. You can make your money work for you by leveraging your money and compound interest, so that by the time you get to that place in your life where you're considering retirement, your money has had the opportunity to work for you and not against you. I shared with Kay this morning that the right-hand side of the slide demonstrates my own personal return on investment for my 401k here with the credit union. As you can see, it's not always a smooth ride, but this is an actual rate of return. And again, for those who may not be comfortable with or familiar with any term or any piece of jargon, utilize the chat feature and we'll slow down and answer any questions. So with that in mind, when we're talking about rate of return, compound interest, we're going to look at Joan's retirement plan. And here this is going to be an opportunity for people to interact with us. There are two different slides, and it's demonstrating similar information. Joan invested $100 into her retirement account, and since then she's contributed $50 every month, and that account earns a 10% interest, and it compounds annually. So which chart in your mind best describes where she'll be in 40 years? If anybody has any thoughts on that, please again feel free to use the chat feature, and I'll wait a moment.
I mean, I hope for her sake she's in chart A, because there's a pretty big difference there. But we'll, I guess, wait and see.
Well, to your point, she is. So that just demonstrates, again, the real-time power of utilizing compound interest and making sure that as you're saving, that you're not going out of your way to save more than you need to, if you can, but that making compound interest work for you is a great feature of retirement plans. So we'll move on. So what is a retirement plan? There's so many different examples and what they all bring to the table. A lot of things people will remember or have heard about maybe in your own life, depending on where you are in your work history. Maybe listening to your parents speak about retirement plans. And so what are they? I mentioned that I have a 401k plan with my employer. I think it's probably 401(3) since we're a not-for-profit. But I do benefit from matching funds. So when you're thinking about these different types of plans, you want to look at whether or not you have the opportunity to leverage an employer savings account that includes matching funds. Many employers offer these tax-deferred retirement plans, which allow participants to make pre-tax contributions to an investment account. The earnings on your investment grow tax-deferred, and if you leave that job, your contributions and earnings are yours to keep. Every employer-sponsored plan is different, so research the rules for the options available to you. In this instance, we're talking about a 401k. This is a retirement savings plan offered by an employer. With this plan, you decide how much money you want taken out of your wages and invested. The money invested is tax-free, but any money you withdraw in retirement is taxable. So in other words, I set it up automatically. 3% of my pay goes to my retirement account. That's pre-tax dollars, which also means that my taxable income is lowered as a result. It's important to remember that early withdrawals are not only taxable, but in many cases they incur additional tax penalties. Actual plans and details will vary based on your employer and other factors. The most well-known and valuable feature of the 401k is that some employers may choose to make a matching contribution. That means if you contribute 3% of your salary, as an example, the employer may add another 3%, bringing your total contributions to 6% of your salary per year. Many employers require you to work at your job for a certain period of time before you can keep all of their matching contributions if you switch jobs. This is called vesting. Any employer contributions that are vested are yours to keep. A 401(3)(b) plan is a type of retirement fund offered to people who work at tax-exempt organizations such as schools, religious institutions, or nonprofits. It is very similar to the 401k. It generally tends to have fewer administrative costs for employers and shorter vesting schedules. The defined benefit plan, these are the plans that are very common. These plans, often referred to as pensions, provide workers with guaranteed benefits like monthly income upon retirement, typically calculated according to the years of service and earnings. Those are kind of like the pension plans that people associate with, like the railroads or I think the railroads. I know that there are many other companies, but that's the one that springs to my mind right now. Then we've got the individual retirement accounts, an IRA. If your company does not offer a plan, or if you are unemployed or self-employed, you can also start your own individual retirement account or IRA. You can also increase retirement savings by contributing to an IRA, as well as your employer-sponsored plan. There are two main types of IRAs, the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. In a traditional IRA, your contributions are not taxed until you withdraw the money. With a Roth IRA, you contribute after tax income, so you may withdraw money tax-free at retirement. There are age limits to these. There's also, where you can save up to, if you're in this one age bracket, and another save up to if you're in an additional age bracket. We're assuming at this point in time nobody's thinking about retiring, so we'll just skip over that. This information will be available to you upon request. It's always best to speak with a financial advisor or accountant or attorney, do your own research, and even consult your loved ones before making any decisions about the type of plans you'd like to use. Knowing your options is always a good place to start. So again, we've already talked about matching contributions, something really, giving away free money, I'll harken back to my own youthful money's going to be here forever kind of past. I worked for a defense contractor, and the company did offer matching funds. I was too youthful to realize I was leaving free money on the table. Always pay attention to that as a way to grow your retirement in a quicker fashion than setting aside your own money. The next way in which to grow your retirement is through investments. Now, as you can see here on the slide, there's 3 different types of categories for investments. There's your mutual funds, where you pool your money together with that of other investors by purchasing shares of mutual funds, which are made up of any number of assets, including stocks, bonds, real estate, and cash. They vary in other ways too, such as the types and locations of the companies in which they invest. Actively managed mutual funds are overseen by a fund manager, while index funds are built to match a market index. So for us here at Cooperative, our board of directors is extremely involved in making sure that the types of investments that we are involved in do not run contrary to our core beliefs. So that is one of the reasons why you would use an investment manager to make sure that anything that you're invested in is in alignment with what it is that you truly believe in. Stocks, for any publicly traded company like Google back in the day, I will date myself and say, I remember when, and people thought it was just a flash in the pan, and we're all wishing we had joined when they opened up at $87 or $83 a share. But you can buy shares in a company, and as these stocks increase in value, there's a potential for a dividend payout, or you can reinvest that in income, or put that to work in a different vehicle. And then bonds. Bonds are monies that you lend to a corporation or government agency, and they earn a fixed rate of interest for a specific period of time. That's going to be one of those where people will refer to them as low risk, because mostly governments aren't going to go bankrupt. So if you invest in a bond, the likelihood is that it will pay off a lower rate of interest, but it's usually a safer bet. The borrower pays you interest on the principal, which is the amount you originally invested. Bond rates are tied to interest rates. Bond prices fall as interest rates rise. You may earn a profit by selling the bond for a higher price than you paid for it. So at this point, I'm going to drop kick this back to Kay, and we're going to talk a little bit further about this.
Yeah, sure. So to think through how this actually works in reality. Let's say you start a new job and you're all jazzed up about this presentation, and you're like, man, I really got to contribute to my retirement account, and I have to set up a bank account with the Cooperative Credit Center and all these things. Amazing, that's part of the message. And then I think the next step is to say, all right, I've started this retirement account. What do I actually do with it? How do I invest it? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds. There's a ton of different options out there. And let me start by saying I'm not a certified financial advisor. There are people like that out there that you can hire, or there's material online available. So that's not me, but I can share just some general information about the industry and the setup and various things. So to think back to Linda's example, where you're contributing, $50 a month, and after 40 years, you've got a couple $100,000 plus in that account. That's a function of how much you contribute, but it's also a function of your rate of return. And typically people think about like a 6 to 10% rate of return. So if you have $100 this year, you've got 110 next year. So that's happening every year. And meanwhile, you're contributing every month or year. And so you go from your $50 contribution to the $200,000 plus. How do we get to that 6 to 10% rate of return? Well, that comes back to stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And typically, people think about investing in stocks or some sort of stock index as a high risk, higher return type of investment. And so as a young person, I myself am, I guess, approaching middle age, but still consider myself young. I'm almost entirely invested in stocks, which are a riskier asset, because I know I'm not going to need that money for a really long time. I would say same thing if you're starting your first job or your first retirement account in your 20s. That investment is most likely going to be stock heavy because you don't need to pull it out for many, many years. If there's a downturn in the market, it doesn't matter to you on that day because you don't need the money yet. You need it, in 30 years time, whatever your investment horizon is. As people get older and closer to retirement, they gradually shift from those risky stocks to the less risky bonds, and in some cases, less risky mutual funds that have some sort of mix of stocks and bonds. So eventually, if you're a year away from retirement, you probably don't want to own very many stocks, because when it comes time to retire, maybe it's a bad year for the stock market, similar to this year, in the sense that if you know you need to pull the money out, you want to have it in something that's fairly stable. And so at that point, you're mostly going to be invested in bonds. So that's the high level overview of, okay, just started a job, fantastic, we're going to open a retirement account. How do we split it up? There are professionals who can advise you on that. And as a young person, primarily going to be looking at investing in stock market indices, so basically groups of stocks that will grow over time. I think that takes us to our next slide here, looking at, well, how do stocks grow over time? And the blue shaded area is the S&P, which is a group of companies that are based out of the US. Sorry, if you could go back one, I think
I did.
Perfect,
So
thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, the blue shaded area there is the S&P, and you can see over time, I started this graph in 1960, which was before I was born, but basically to say over time, this has gone up from, if you had $80 in 1960, you now have something like 4,400. And that is just purely the performance of stock market over time. The benefit of the index, which is like I said, a group of a bunch of different companies that operate in the US, is that you have some stability. And yeah, there's going to be a few companies that go bankrupt, just like there's going to be a few that do really, really well. But on average, you're going to get kind of the total performance of the economy and the market as a whole, and your money's going to grow over time. I think the title of the workshop is again relevant here. Late stage capitalism to me means, well, this has been a good system for growth over the last, let's call it 100 years. But as you can see by the chart, the stock market has been going up at a really fast rate over the last, let's call it 15 to 20 years. But the economy hasn't necessarily been growing at that same rate. And we've got some inherent issues in the economy, like rising income inequality and things that aren't necessarily sustainable in the long run. There's a lot of talk of like the rich get richer and we don't trust financial institutions and all these things. To me, that's really the crux of late stage capitalism. It was a great system for growth, and that growth is slowing, and we have all of these negative side effects like income inequality that are starting to kind of come front and center. So how do we navigate that? Investing, long-term savings, those are great tools. Most Americans don't start until it's too late, and many don't ever own any equity or have any return like this S&P chart here, or like the stock market that's been going up for 60 years, like on this chart. So most people don't have this, and the people that do are getting more wealthy. People that don't are essentially just falling further behind, and hence the late stage capitalism. So
I think if I want to, I'm sorry, Kay, I'm going to step all over you. I apologize.
Go right ahead.
If I wanted to make an observation, I believe that that's kind of what has spurred crypto, right? Is this lack of belief in the existing financial institution, and the thought that crypto offers greater control over your own individual, asset growth. So you could see that people are gravitating to something that's not a historical truth because they don't trust the system.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's a really good point, and there's definitely room for alternative asset classes when we think about, okay, how do we navigate the next 10 years or even my career until retirement? The stock market isn't my only option, and things like crypto and commodities, which is my day job, but I have investments in all of those things as well. So if anyone has interest in learning more about that or teaching me something about that, because I'm always down to learn, please reach out or mention it in the Q&A session.
Okay, so now we're going to look at Kay's personal journey, or what could have been his personal journey. So there you go. You get to explain what happened here.
All right. So I actually didn't invest in a retirement account in my first year of employment, and I had a company match, and I didn't take them up on it. And I actually was just excited to have money in the bank account, and I left it there. First job out of school, first time getting an adult paycheck, and I didn't contribute to my retirement account. So to kind of put that in context of, all right, well, what does that mean in the long run? If I had contributed even $1,000 when I started working in 2016, that could be worth over $1 million by 2066, just going based on historical rate of returns. So thankfully, I started contributing in 2017 forward, but I think it's a really powerful example to say, look, I potentially missed out on $1 million by the time I retire, purely because for one thing, I wasn't really aware of a lot of these concepts, but I just didn't contribute in my first year of employment. And we never had a presentation like this when I was in the BSc to raise some of these points. So that's a little bit of a personal anecdote, but I did want to also say the BSc AA has set aside some funds for anyone that wants to get started on this journey. So we would like to match a contribution to get current students started with some sort of retirement account. Most likely will be an IRA or a personal retirement account that you can contribute to. So the way that would work is please reach out to us, and the Cooperative Credit Center can help us get a retirement account set up for you, or if you already have one, or an existing relationship with a financial institution, you can set one up there and reach out to us. But either way, we'd love to see current BSc students setting up these retirement accounts. And If you do so and make an initial contribution of $100 to fund the account, the BSCAA will refund you back 50 of that. So we're essentially matching your initial contribution 50-50, which, like I said, we never had that offer when I was in school, and we're really excited about making it to you now. So we'd love for current students to reach out, and we can follow up on the details for that offline. So I'll hand it back to Linda here with the branch locations.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, you know, from a more seasoned perspective, that's a really great offer. And like you, had I been more on top of things when I had my very first grown-up job, I should have taken better care with, you know, the idea of free money coming my way and taking advantage of it. So I really applaud you all for making that offer. And to help out, these are our 2 locations. So in 2017, Cooperative Center began a conversation about what we're going to do with the location we had at 2001 Ashby Avenue. We'd owned that building and that land outright for many years, and we started to notice that a lot of our members, through gentrification and just their life cycle, were beginning to migrate further east into the East Bay. And we took a look at that and said, okay, well, projecting into the future, where are our new members coming from? Could they be as far out as Brentwood and Oakley? Very much a possibility. So as you can see, we now have a smaller micro branch at the corner of San Pablo and Ashby. And our headquarters and loan center is located in the heart of downtown Martinez. We're very proud of the legacy we left behind in Berkeley at our former location. We sold it to a nonprofit developer, Resources for Community Development, and they're in the process of breaking ground on an 87 unit, 100% affordable building. So we're excited and really proud of that accomplishment. These are our locations. Again, our hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have secured ATMs at both locations. Some of the feedback we heard from members was that they did not feel comfortable or safe going to an ATM that was open to the street on that corner of Ashby and Adeline. And so when we built out these 2 locations, we made sure they were behind a secured vestibule. So that's where we are. And again, I haven't seen any questions coming through. If you want to, I can open up the mic, or you can use the chat feature, but now would be the time for questions.
So we actually, I guess I can kick it off. We actually had one come through via email before the presentation started here. And I thought it was interesting. I actually ask myself the same question all the time. It was basically like, hey, I have some amount of money, but I don't trust financial institutions, and I don't really trust the stock market. Like, what should I do with it? So, like I said, I ask myself that same question pretty frequently as well. The stock market has been going up, and it's not necessarily correlated with companies becoming more valuable. It's going up because there's more money in the system, and that's typically not a good thing. So people are worried about that, as am I. I guess the first thing I would say on that one is it depends on your your timeline and when you might need to take that money back out. I think, to my earlier example, if you're very early in your career, someone who is, in their 20s, historically you would have invested pretty heavily in the stock market. And even though it might be inflated now, over the next 40 to 60 years, it's going to grow just like the US economy is going to grow. So that's been the conventional wisdom. I still think there's some truth to that. On the flip side, if you're 60 years old and 5 years away from retirement, then it gets a lot more difficult, because who knows where we're going to be in 5 years. And some really smart people have been talking about some recessionary signals in the economy, and the fact that in a year or two, there's going to be a ton of uncertainty in financial markets, just like there is uncertainty in financial markets right now. So as a 60-year-old, I would, again, focus more heavily on bonds or some sort of fixed income instrument that offers essentially a guaranteed rate of return over some set amount of time. And that's the transition I mentioned earlier between stocks now and bonds later. If you don't like either of those, I personally have a bunch of alternative investments, like I said earlier, commodities, energy, agriculture, some crypto, just across the board. So if anyone has any further questions on that stuff, always happy to chat. I don't know if anything else has come in.
Thanks, Kay. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I'm the one that sent that email, and the one thing you didn't mention in the email was that I'm over 83 years old, and so that puts a whole new picture on thing. I didn't know really what you folks were going to talk about, really, and it's been a while since I graduated, 1962, about the time you started this example. So anyway, I really enjoyed this though, and I've got civil service retiree, so I've got my monthly pension that takes care of daily things, but I've got excuse me, I've also got a bad cold, and I'm waiting for a COVID response, so I'm not doing too well. But anyway, I really wish I had done what you said was the good thing to do back in '62. Started this. There were opportunities to, even though I couldn't make much money at that time. But at any rate, I've enjoyed this, and I'm really glad the co-op, is doing this. It's great. I was at Barrington from '57 to '59, and then I boarded at Oxford for 3 or 4 years, stayed at Cloyne and Ridge a couple of summers. And I really, this harkens back to my college days, and I'll have to figure out what to do with my little nest egg. I don't know at least I've got some people to talk to. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tried to generalize it for the broader audience, but and you look great for 80 plus as well. So keep up the good work.
Right.
So I'm sorry, is this Wick? I'm looking at someone trying to speak, but your microphone is very faint, and so it might be better if you had like an earphone kind of setup with a built-in mic for like maybe your cell phone, and use that, because the mic for your computer is really faint. Or you can chat, and you can put your questions in the chat, Wick, so this way we can all hear you.
I do not see the chat on the application.
Yeah, I don't either. I can't either.
Oh, I apologize. I thought so. Okay, so I'm not technically challenged completely, but I can see it on my end. I assumed you all could see it on your end. I know how it works
Interesting.
in Zoom.
See, this is a case where there's no chat.
Says the chat was disabled by the organizer.
Oh, no, it shouldn't be. I apologize. I had asked them to make sure that it was enabled. But everybody's mic is unmuted, so please feel free to chime in.
I'm going to speak really loudly.
Okay.
Do that? Probably barely. I just want to echo what I've done. I'm also retirement age, but have had a long-term financial advisor. And if you're not a pro like Kay, I highly recommend that. And think about getting somebody who's paid on the total amount that they manage, not on the number of transactions.
Yeah, so Wick was just saying he's had a really good experience with a financial advisor, I believe, who he actually employs to help him make some of these decisions, which yeah, I think is a great idea. And his final point was you want to make sure those folks have the right incentives and make sure that they're paid on basically for whatever value add they bring to you, not just on like the total amount of money that they're advising on or something like that. So typically an hourly rate is the best way to go with those guys as a general rule.
Speaking as a former salesperson, it definitely eliminates some of the less than stellar reasons for your behaviors. So I'm not seeing anybody else wanting to chime in. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, if that's it, I guess we can wrap it here.
So I understand that there's going to be a follow-up email with contact information along with, and this is being recorded, so this will be made available after the fact. I believe it takes a little while for it to be rendered. But there will be follow-up emails for question and answers, as well as contact information. My specific contact information will be made available there as well.
I'd also like to say if people want to go check out the BSCAA website, they can always get a message to us that way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we can. So our website bscaa.coop is a great resource. We've got all the info up there and contact info as well. So please reach out. Like I said, in particular about the retirement matching opportunity that we've put on offer.
Thank you very much, folks. I'm going to sign out here and go to bed.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you all for attending and have a great evening.
Thank you for your time.